All right, thank you again for joining us. The recording has now started, and I will turn it over to TYRC Assistant Director Tasha Friday.
Hello and welcome everyone. As Laura mentioned, those of you who are just now joining, you are in session entitled Profile in Youth Resiliency. And we welcome you all. I'm looking at the attendees and I see some repeat offenders, as I like to call them. So I've seen you in several sessions, so welcome back. And if you're just now joining the conference, welcome. This is going to be a great conversation. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, my name is Tasha Friday. I am Wichita, Kiowa, and Caddo from Oklahoma. I'm joining you today from Porcupine, South Dakota, the land of the Oglala Lakota people. And I'm the Assistant Director of the Tribal Youth Resource Center. And I'm just really excited about this conversation because that's really what this session is. It's just a conversation with Jamie and I and with all of you to discuss, the strengths and resiliency that she's had. And she's representative for much of our youth. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and let her introduce herself to you all. Jamie, welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Crowe, and I come from the Pueblo of Tesuque, and I am happy to be presenting for all of you.
Thanks, Jamie. And then can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, like how old you are and, what's one of your favorite things to do, or what are you passionate about?
I'm a senior at Milwaukee Valley High School, and I am 18 years old, and I'm really passionate about playing basketball. I actually have a game later tonight too, so just getting ready for that too.
That's exciting. Well, good luck. One of my daughters is a baller, so I love watching basketball. So good luck at your game. Let's go ahead and go to the first slide, and we'll open in a good way. And just wanted to pay homage not only to Jamie and the community members of the Tesuque Pueblo, but just all of us. These pictures are representative of a reenactment of the Pueblo Revolt. And they are reenacting the runners who really created a unified resistance against the Spanish. And this revolt really speaks volumes about the strength of our people, generally the resilience of our people, because one of their former presidents or governor, I think, James Henna, said the purpose of the revolt was to preserve their way of life. And I think that Jamie is an example of that preservation and what those runners did to make sure that she would be here today to sit with us and talk with us about how she's continuing that legacy of resilience and strength. So I thought these were a good way to open because these represent her ancestors and why she's here today. So Jamie, thank you for sharing. I don't know if you wanted to share any more about this. I'm sure you're more of an expert than I am, but it really spoke to my spirit.
Yeah, this is just something we annually do, is like in honor of the commemoration of the 1680 Pueblo Revolt. And what we do is usually we run from our Pueblo all the way to the capital of New Mexico, Santa Fe, which is not too far from where we are located, but we run from the plaza all the way to downtown Santa Fe. And that's just a good way for us to come together.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Like I said, I think it speaks to the strength of the identity of your people and all of our youth and reminds you how strong you guys are, even when we're in a global pandemic or facing, whatever challenges, it reminds you of the strength of the Tesuque people. So thank you again. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Like I said, this session is not going to be slide heavy because we really want to have a conversation with everyone here and with Jamie to talk about her experience. So we'll talk about her perspective on COVID-19, how that impacted her. We'll show a video in response to that, and then we'll also have a discussion. And that will include topics like education, wellness, and what the future looks like for Jamie and our youth all over. after living through this first year of the global pandemic, we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel with the vaccinations that are happening. And Indian country is really doing a great job, and in many places a leader in getting people vaccinated, not only our people, but our community members and neighbors. And so I think that also is indicative of our sense of community, our compassion for others. And I think we are giving a good example to our young people on how to be a good relative, whether you are Indigenous or non-Indigenous, that we're showing how to be a good relative and protect each other through those vaccinations, wearing masks, all of those things. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. We won't show the video quite yet, but or would you rather show the video, Jamie, and then talk about COVID-19 and how that impacted you? Do you think the video would speak more to that?
Yeah, I think the video would be a nice start.
Okay, let's go ahead and show the video if we could, Laura, and then we'll discuss it and how you got through everything.
On March 11, 2020, New Mexico saw its first cases of COVID-19. And the day before, I was just in Albuquerque for the state basketball tournament, not knowing that everyone's life would soon change. Immediately after learning about the cases, I've been home with my siblings, and we haven't left the house unless we absolutely had to. A lot has changed since March. I saw the trees go from having no leaves to now having them, and the weather changed from the cold winter to warm spring and now to hot summer. I had to finish school online. My last physical day at school was March 6th, which now feels like years. It was an interesting experience, learning online. I also saw many graduate in ways that haven't been done before, such as parades and online ceremonies. I developed a healthy routine since I wouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon. I wake up at a reasonable time so that I won't be sleeping my days away. I also started to work out to stay active. I'm making sure to take good care of myself because it is more than important to do that, especially at this time. I also started cooking for my family a lot, which I don't mind since it gives me something to do. I have been spending a lot of time outside, whether that be near my house or in the mountains. I go on walks and hikes with my family, and I've come to appreciate where I live and its environment. Not that I didn't appreciate it before, but I have a deeper appreciation now. Something this pandemic has taught me is to never take anything for granted, because one moment we were living our lives as if nothing would happen to us, to now living in a worldwide pandemic, where everything has changed. We have to be aware that nothing will be solved until there is a vaccine, and until then, we must socially distance, wear a mask, and wash our hands.
So that was a great video. Can you tell us why you did the video and what was your experience just in making the video? And then we can talk about the content of it.
I was asked to make a video for somebody here in our Pueblo for research purposes, I think it was. And I didn't know that I would be making a video because we were asked to either use pictures or video, and I had so much stuff that I think it would have been better to have made a video, so that's why I made the video. And then as I was going in, I just started thinking about, wow, there's a lot to talk about here. So I put it all in this video, and it's everything that I felt that I couldn't talk to anybody else that came into that video.
That's awesome. I think it's great that you were willing to do it. And sometimes, we put requests out just in communities for youth. And, especially during a pandemic, there's a lot of stress with the online school and figuring that out, and for you to make the time. And as you can see, it impacted your community and whoever was doing the research, but it's having a broader impact. I mean, right now we have over 100 relatives that are sitting here with us who just saw your video and are looking at the strength that you have. And, we're looking in the comments and they're like, what a great video, and it's eloquent and all of that. And it was really well done. So definitely kudos for that. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, Laura. So let's go ahead and start at education. You mentioned online school, and that was a lot to get used to. What was the most difficult part, and maybe what lessons did you learn from going to school online?
It was really hectic because we went online. Well, the pandemic started while I was in spring break. So we had like a thought of, oh, we'll just go back in another week or a couple of weeks. And we didn't know that we wouldn't be back in school in person. And so it took about a month for my school to get everything like situated and for us to get used to like Zoom. Like this is something that nobody has ever used before, like Google Classroom, like where we post our assignments on. Like it was just a whole new thing. And a lot of us, like my fellow classmates, were really confused. But over time we got used to it, and it's just something like, yeah, this is going to be something we have to get used to. It's our new normal that we have to like be online for maybe another year.
Right. And then, so have you returned to school in person now?
No, I haven't. My school has chose to open up because New Mexico schools have opened up already. And we had the choice whether or not to return to in-person learning or to stay online. But personally, I chose to stay online.
Awesome. And how is that impacting? You said you're a senior, right? How is that impacting your senior year?
You know, it's really heartbreaking to know that I didn't get my full senior year experience, you know, like everything, like going to homecoming, going to in-person, like with a lot of people of in-person sports games. It's just like there's a lot that comes with your senior year. But being online, it was kind of really depressing, but you know, you have to make the most out of it. And it just went by really quickly, just my senior year online. It was very different, but I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to even continue doing school.
Great. Yeah. I think, it's going to be a memory, right, that you'll tell your grandchildren about, all of the interesting experiences and trials and tribulations and how you got through it. You mentioned that you're going to play basketball later. Is that through later today? Is that through school? Is that AAU? What does that look like for you?
It's through school. So I think a couple weeks ago, the governor of our state gave the okay for high school sports to resume and continue. So it's really different, but we have a really like, what is it? A condensed schedule of games. So we don't have like more than 12. We have a set 12 games confirmed. But the thing is, we still have to wear masks. We have to try to social distance and practice as best as we can. Same thing with games. And it's just such a wonderful opportunity to be able to play again, because I didn't think that we would be able to play again. I thought I would just like miss out completely on my senior year of this.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you get to. I know my daughter just finished her basketball season, and so there were limitations, like the stands, only so many people could go, and you had to sit so far away from people. And some teams wore masks while they played, and all the chairs, there was no bench, they were 6 feet apart. And most of that was prior to vaccinations coming out a lot of her season. So really interesting way to watch and play basketball. I'm glad that you get to do that. I know in your video, you also mentioned just being more physically active while you were at home, sheltering in place. So what motivated you to do that? Like you said, you didn't want to sleep the day away. And I mean, that's really mature of you for sure.
Well, usually when I was like, if I had a break, like spring break, you would stay up till like 12 a.m. or like past that just because you'd have the time. But I did realize like more into the pandemic that, you know, this is not going anywhere. And I needed something to like base myself on, like give myself a structured like, routine so I wasn't like doing random things every other day. I wanted this routine so that way it could help me like mental health wise and even physical wise. That's why I started working out, is like in the mornings, like it gets you ready for the day and it helps you just get this positive mind and being able to just do what you can to make it worth it.
Yeah, again, I think that's really great that you were proactive. Again, I said I have two teenage daughters, a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they were 13 and 15 when this all started. And I created my own curriculum before the school did, and they hated it. I'm sure I was making my 13-year-old learn Spanish. She's not even in Spanish. Like we were doing all the things. I was making them get on all these online conferences for youth, because I wanted them to stay active and engaged in life, right? Because we were very cautious staying at home and all of that. And so I didn't want life to pass them by or them to sleep it away. So I think that's great that you could do that yourself. We did have a question in the chat when we were talking about education. It says, did you have support from all of your teachers doing online classes, and what were your challenges?
My teachers were probably just as lost as we were, but they were very supportive. They knew that this was new to us and them specifically too, but they would check in on us and ask us how we're doing, and we would have wellness check-ins and saying like if you need anything, like they're there for like us too. And it was just something new for everybody, but they were still there for us. And the challenges that like came up were, when do I need to be in class, and internet issues, and being able to like, I guess, be on top of all of that even when it's hard on an online setting.
I'm glad that you had the support. I mean, we see different experiences of youth just by school district or region or whatever, and then a lot of our youth struggle with just basic internet connectivity. So like you said, there are a lot of challenges. I'm glad that you had a supportive group of teachers and educators that were there to help you. Someone mentioned that they also benefited from having a routine during that time. So let's go ahead and move on to mental and emotional health. You did touch on that a little bit and connect it to your physical well-being as far as getting exercise, and then not, not oversleeping and those kind of things. But talk to us a little bit about how your mental and emotional health were affected during the specifically the beginning, right, of COVID-19, when there were some bigger fears and unknowns.
It was really hard, and I think I developed a lot of anxiety from worrying about my entire pueblo, my family, and my grandparents specifically, because it was hitting the elders really hard, and it's just so scary and a lot of pressure to be put on top of like somebody. And like I know everybody else may have been going through that, but it was really hard to get used to not seeing like far family, like far away, and staying home when you were used to like going to the grocery store with your family like on the weekends, like just getting out. But when I started getting isolated, I was like, this doesn't feel comfortable, and it's hard to get used to. But you know, I found myself getting really like sad about it and really worried, anxious, and I put myself in a really dark place for a little while there, but like it was just so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, thinking like this is gonna be forever. We're not getting anywhere. It was really hard, but then at one point I just said, let's start getting up early. Let's start taking care of myself and making sure I'm getting enough food, water, exercise. And once I started doing that, it started feeling like things will get better no matter how long it takes.
Did any of your peers, like, were you in contact with any of your peers? Were they having similar experiences? Did you all support one another, or were there tribal programs that were helpful during that time for you?
There were a lot of people who, felt the same thing. Like my peers, my classmates, they were all feeling sort of the same thing. Like this was everybody, like I said, was going through this same thing. And I think it was really helpful to know that, there's somebody here too that feels the same way. Maybe we can talk about it and we can like get through it together as one.
Sure. Okay. And it looks like they asked us if we can mute when we're not talking. So we'll just have to mute and unmute. And I think my volume is a little low. So let me see if I can fix that. I apologize. I think I got my volume together. So as far as spiritual health, what, if anything, how is that impacted, and what resources, either tribally or within your family or your pueblo, what helped you in that respect?
Just knowing that we're still here and we can still come together one day. It's still gonna be there, but it's hard not being able to do certain things like as we once did, collaboratively, like together as a pueblo. And it was really hard, but the thing is we can only do is pray and pray for each other, pray for strength, and just ask for that strength, and just be there with one another as we will be one day again.
Yeah, I think for me and my little family, prayer was super helpful during that time, because it's easy to lose faith whenever there's so many big unknown things that are happening, and then we live in a very metropolitan area, so we're looking at people who, in my opinion, were being irresponsible and not looking out for others and not masking and all of the things. So it's hard. It's really hard. During your video, you also talked about your connection to family and like cooking for your family and things like that. So how were those connections with friends and family impacted by your experience with COVID-19?
With my family, I got to spend a lot more time with them. Like when I was in school and when the pandemic wasn't a thing, I had sports practice, school, homework. I didn't really have enough time to like interact with them as much as I would like. But once it did hit, it was like all we had was each other. Like this is what we had, and we have to be there for one another. And I'm just really thankful, like even though like the pandemic was a horrible thing that happened, but to be able to spend more time with my family and connect with them more and just feel like you're not alone is what is amazing to me and what happened with me.
Yeah, and that brings us to the next little bullet item, was the gratitude, right? So while COVID-19 has taken so much from us, particularly our elders and community members, it has given us some things as well. And I liked in your video that you talked about gratitude and appreciation for certain things. I would echo too, like just slowing down for me. Like I travel all the time, and slowing down and just taking a breath was really refreshing to me in a lot of ways. On the flip side, I think sometimes, being locked in a house with your little family, sometimes you have too much of a good thing. But, just to sit down and everyone slowing down and getting back to the dinner table and all the things together was super helpful. So you did discuss in the video and just now some things that you were grateful for. I guess what was something that you were most grateful for during your early pandemic time or now?
Honestly, I have the most gratitude for having the life that I have and the things that I do. That's the most like important thing to me that I have gratitude for, is like what I have now, my family, my pueblo, my culture. It's just who I am as a person, like what it makes me. And beforehand I was really like going through life through the motions, and then once things stopped, it makes you think like, wow, I never really spent this much time with my family, or wow, I can do so many things that I haven't done before. And it just makes you grateful for the life that you have.
For sure. I'm going to go to a couple of questions here. So one is, what about community resources? Were they supportive? Did they make themselves known for support? So I think that goes back to like the programs. Are there youth programs? Are there community organizations that were helpful to you and supportive to you and your peers?
Well, for my pueblo, they really helped us out, like with lunches. For us, I do remember now is that like they would hand out lunches to the youth that needed like they're staying home now, so who's gonna feed them, who's gonna help them out. So I just remember now that we used to get like lunches, breakfast, and that was really like kind and helpful to have. And then even later on, my Pueblo started like providing us foods, like much needed foods, like canned foods, pastas, like stuff like that, flour and stuff that we could really use. I like that idea, like with them handing out stuff to the community, and that's what really helped us.
Yeah, my great grandmother used to say one of the most meaningful things that you can do is to feed the people. And so I think just traditionally, right, providing food for each other is not only nourishing our bodies, but our minds and our spirits, that someone cared enough to make sure that we had food to eat. And I know when my kids started virtual schooling, like going to pick up the school lunch was the highlight of our day, because we got out of the house and we would have to drive a little way to go pick it up. And it's like, what's in there? I mean, there was, so it was really odd, but that was like, we're getting out of the house, we're going to put on some masks and roll down our window this much and take the lunch. And so, yeah, I can understand that. Another question is, what have you missed in your home life, your traditional life, and your personal life? I know you kind of touched on all of those, but is there anything else that you want to add to any of those?
Just the traditional part is what really hits home, is like something that helps you get through life. You know, what I do in my culture, my traditions, is what brought me the most strength. And you know, we had to stop some things because of COVID, and it just makes me really sad to know that like we had to stop. But it makes me hopeful that, you know, we'll get back to it once things are back to normal, now that we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And that goes to our next bullet point, which is the future. So we're talking about light at the end of the tunnel. How are vaccines going for your Pueblo and your surrounding community? And what are you looking forward to as things start to get to a new normal? Because things will never be like they were before, like you said. But with this new normal, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm really grateful to have gotten both my COVID vaccines. Um, my family too, we're all vaccinated. So I think most of my Pueblo is getting vaccinated too. So that's really makes me hopeful and makes me feel like things will soon get better, like the future. And I know things won't be normal like as it was once before, but it makes me hopeful to know that, you know, things are slowly starting to get better. Life is starting to slowly get back to what it was, even though it won't be the same. I think that we have more ideas as to how to be healthier and more hygienic too, because like, you know, I never used to put on hand sanitizer right away after I got out of the store. And it's just new things that we have to remember to be grateful for and to continue doing.
Agreed. I am telling you, and all of our relatives on the conversation, I will never blow out a birthday candle again. I'm like, we used to do that. I cannot, not anymore, right? That's so weird to me now. Um, but yeah, definitely being more hygienic and all of those things, that has just become a part of our normal life. I don't know when we'll stop wearing masks, if we'll stop wearing masks. You know, even when we're vaccinated, we know that we should still wear masks for others. And so I think it has created an awareness in all of us to look out for others and to think beyond ourselves for the most part. And so that's, you know, a very indigenous value anyway. And it just reminded us to do that in a lot of different ways. Someone said not blowing out candles is sad. I agree. I just can't. I just can't do it anymore. But also, it looks like Daniel, who you know, has asked, what youth project would you like to do next? And so that speaks to the future too. So what are you looking forward to doing with a youth project?
Probably like mental health, you know, just seeing how we can further that, because, you know, before this, it wasn't really talked about as much as it is now. I want to really like keep that going, mental health and youth, and how they get through things. And, you know, it's a hard topic, but it's something that really needs to be talked about.
Yeah, and I hope, you know, like I said, a lot of people are attending a variety of sessions in this conference, and I hope that we're, as the adult relatives that are tasking ourselves to uplift youth, that we're listening, because we are hearing that from youth. And to me, it's loud and clear that mental health amongst our youth is one of their greatest concerns and greatest needs. So I appreciate you sharing that. You're reiterating what your peers are saying. And so as communities, we've got to figure out, how do we support you all best in that, and how do we empower you to support each other and yourselves. And some of that comes from the work that we do in instilling that strong identity, like, you know, of your ancestors and the Pueblo Revolt, and tying us back to our strengths and our skills. So but really, you know, to hear it repeatedly through our youth talking about mental health, we have to take that seriously. And so I appreciate you sharing that for sure. I think the other thing, as far as the future, that I was interested in, because a lot of our youth are in your situation, so you're getting ready to graduate, has that impacted anything, future plans? Like, are you applying to college or technical school or anything like that? And how has that been impacted, that process in enrolling or applying places?
When I first started applying, I was so lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I applied to 3 schools, I believe it was. And but the process starting out, it's really hard, because in school they would help you, like, you know, this is what you do. You have help from teachers one to one, saying, how do you write your personal essays and how to get more outlook on that. And it's just really hard to adapt to the online setting, even though, like, you know, you could talk to your teachers then, but it's more helpful when you have that person face to face to talk to and get that, like, what is it, advice. And you know, I applied to college. I got that done though. So I got into three schools so far. That would be the University of New Mexico, New Mexico State University, and Northern Arizona University. So with those three, I have a top pick, but you know, it was really hard, but you know, having that one-to-one would have been really helpful. But you know, everybody that I know got through it, and we all learned how to apply for college scholarships too. So
Yeah, Daniel said in the chat, and I echo, go Lobos. Didn't go to school there, but I think that's a great school, and they're all good schools, and congratulations on getting in, especially with the challenges that you faced. But I think you bring up something really important, because the work that we all do, whether we're in a juvenile healing to wellness court, a tribal youth program, Native Connections, all of those things are that we are trying to keep our youth out of the juvenile justice system. And while that was probably not a huge deal for you, part of that is preparing our youth with life skills and helping them take those next steps towards a positive future. And I know my oldest daughter is a junior, so she was affected by not being able to take the ACT as many times as she wanted to. There are schools that she would like to visit, but we can't visit. So we're doing virtual visits, which is not the same, but you know, we're adapting. And so I think too, that college admissions process can be daunting, and we would hate for any youth to be discouraged to a point where they just say, oh, never mind, I'm not going to do it. And so what can our programs do to support those life skills and that next step as our youth transition into being young adults? And so I'm glad that you were able to do it, but it really highlights an area where we can serve in our youth programs and such to assist tribal youth better. And so it looks like we started something in the chat. So there's NAU, more Go Lobos. So you'll have to let us all know what you ultimately decide. But I'm really glad that you're going to school. So we are open for more questions from the audience now, because we've covered most of what we wanted to cover. And then Jamie, is there anything else that you want to discuss or you want people to know that can help tribal youth that we haven't touched on yet?
Honestly, everything that I talked about is like everything I wanted to like let everybody know. And if there's anything, like anybody has any questions, like I'm really willing to answer them.
Right. And it seems like just the exercise of making this video was therapeutic for you. You were like, I got to get it all out. And so I'm glad that that was an outlet for you. And so maybe that's something that other tribes can replicate as well. And what we found is that sometimes youth are hesitant to speak or show their face, and you didn't really have to show your face in much of that, right? But you've got to narrate your story and express yourself in a very meaningful way. So maybe that is something that tribal youth programs can look at, and juvenile healing wellness courts for youth to share. Let me see. I think there's a question in the box. Jamie, what advice would you give other youth in creating digital stories? So earlier today, we did digital engagement for adults to work with tribal youth, but what would you give as far as advice for tribal youth creating digital stories?
I would say just be creative and don't be afraid to just put anything. Because with me, I had a bunch of photos and I was like, wow, what am I going to do with these? But I just incorporated everything into that one video, and it's really therapeutic, like you said, for me. And just don't be afraid to be yourself, to speak how you feel, because when you do that, you make the word get out there, like how you're feeling, how could others be feeling? And just don't be afraid to be yourself. Let yourself be creative.
Yeah, creativity is key. We have another question. Did the pandemic reveal weaknesses and disconnection within the tribal structure? And what concerned you, and how would you address the subject as a youth? So were there any downfalls in the tribal structure in responding to the emergency of a global pandemic?
Um, I wouldn't say downfalls. I would just say like challenge. It's just a challenge to, talk to everybody without having them come together, or to have things happen, but in a social distance way. It's just, we had to stop a lot of things. You had to just get used to it as one together, just get used to it together.
Yeah, I really like your strength-based language too, where you're like, there weren't downfalls, there were challenges. And so communication has been a struggle for tribes across Indian country for a variety of reasons, but none of us were prepared to respond to a global pandemic. I think some tribal infrastructures were set up a little in a way where they could respond a little easier, but it was all brand new to everyone. So I think we're all in a better place 1 year later, still learning and growing and responding to different challenges. But yeah, I'm glad that was an experience that you had. Let's see, we have another question. I'm interested in the digital storytelling. What device did you use, app, etc., and how long did it take for you to develop it?
Okay, so with me, I used my iPhone. I just used my iPhone, and with videos that I took or pictures that I took, and for the pictures that I didn't take that were in my video, I just looked up like, quarantine or like COVID-19 just to use like in my video. Like took a screenshot, used that for my video. And I forget what app I used, but I looked up on the App Store like a video editor, and I just used one of those to help me put all my stuff together. And there was a option there that I could like speak over it. So I just wrote a quick script, and I looked at my script, got my headphones, and just started talking through my script throughout the video, and that's all I had to do.
You make it sound so easy. For some of us of a certain age, it probably isn't that easy. I tried to edit a video before. It's not for me. But we do have some other great questions. Really quickly though, Laura, I wanted to, or Janice, or Cindy, I'm sorry. I wanted to note in the chat, they asked a web address for a video. I don't know if you guys can put the link to the video in there. If not, we can put it in with our resources potentially for anyone who missed her video. But really great. Oh, there it is. Thank you guys. It looks like there's a couple really great questions. How do you recommend that New Mexico behavioral health leaders engage youth in a meaningful system change way to inform mental health and substance use services for youth? So how do you think they can engage you all in the conversation about mental health and substance use services for your age demographic or your age group?
I think they could just provide outlets and provide, different ways of seeking, how you can seek help, how you can come together and help each other out, just being there for a person, and just different outlets that they can use mental health wise. Like, there's different things that you can do, there's hotlines, there's just a lot that you can provide, you know.
Okay, and is there any area that you, or are there any areas that you think tribes could do more for our children in the areas of K through 12?
For sure, there's a lot. Like I said, mental health outlets, awareness. Uh, it's something that isn't talked about for the youth, and it's scary because you feel like you'll be seen as somebody different or something's wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with it. And that's the main thing that I like to talk about is mental health. And there's also, I guess, ways with internet, if now that we're online, get some way to provide internet for our children that are in school, and so they can be able to go online and not miss out on anything like that.
Okay, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. There are a couple more, so maybe we can create a blog for you, Jamie, or something where you can answer the rest of these questions, but we can go to the next slide. So we want to leave a little space for you to close out. And so this is just a slide of our Tribal Youth Resource Center team. Again, we are envisioning a future where Indigenous youth thrive through traditional lifeways. And I think, again, Jamie, you are a shiny example of that. And I think everyone in this panel is so excited to hear what you do in the future. And we appreciate you spending your time with us and reminding us how strong our youth are, even in the face of a global pandemic. Next slide.
Thank you for attending session B3, Profile in Youth Resiliency. As a reminder, there's a link for a workshop session evaluation in the chat box. Please click on this link now and take a moment to complete the survey. There's also a sign that links to session evaluations in the main virtual lobby. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have been unable to join a session that you are interested in, a recording will be posted on this platform and will remain up until April 30th. After this time, you may find recordings of all conference sessions at tribalyouth.org.
Thank you, Tapanshi, Eli. Now we'll go ahead and give the floor to Jamie to close out this session.
I want to thank everybody for coming and just being here with me and to listen to my story, to listen to what I had to say. And it just makes me really happy that there are people who are willing to listen. And I wish you all well and your whatever you choose to do. And I wish you all the best, and I hope you stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you again, Jamie. You're getting lots of good lucks on the basketball game, so keep me updated, how many points you scored, triple double, all the things. Okay, thank you all.